former President Trump and President Biden. Haley calling it quits after losing all but one Super Tuesday contest, the move igniting a battle to win over her supporters. How Trump plans to do just that as he picks up a key endorsement, the state of the race, and what to expect in the long road ahead. Willis's relationship leak. We're hearing from the attorney who first brought allegations against DA Bonnie Willis in the Georgia election interference case. The moment she was tipped off about the romantic relationship between Willis and the special prosecutor she hired, and Willis's response to the state investigation, marking her first time speaking out since her fireworks testimony in that Georgia courtroom. Zelensky targeted, a Russian missile landing close to the Ukrainian president's convoy, also carrying the Greek prime minister. The strike less than half a mile away, rattling the two leaders. What we're learning about the close call. Calling in the National Guard to protect New York City subways? New York Governor Kathy Hochul taking drastic measures following an uptick of violent crimes on the bustling transit system. We hear tonight from a musician struck in the head for playing his cello. What he has to say about the terrifying moments. Plus, a top story exclusive. Nearly 7 months since the deadly wildfires ripped through Lahaina, we speak to the governor of Hawaii. What sparked one of the nation's deadliest disasters? A new fund offering help the survivors, but there's a catch. Those who take the money won't be allowed to sue those who contributed to the fund. And Elon versus OpenAI, tech giants battling it out after Elon Musk filed a lawsuit arguing the company diverted from its nonprofit mission. OpenAI firing back, pulling out emails allegedly showing Musk with a money play idea. We asked ChatGPT, what's the real story? Top story starts right now. Hey, good evening. We want to come on here with that breaking news tonight. Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed has been found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for the deadly on-set shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. 26-year-old Gutierrez-Reed taken into custody after the verdict was announced late today. The jury only deliberating for about 2.5 hours following a nearly 2-week trial. Prosecutors argued that she loaded a live round into a prop gun that Alec Baldwin fired on the New Mexico set of the Western film back in October of 2021. That shot killing Hutchins, who was a decorated filmmaker, wife, mother. The film's director was also hit, but he is okay. Police later finding evidence of several live rounds on set. Baldwin was indicted a second time on manslaughter charges back in January. He pleaded not guilty and his trial begins this July. But for more on tonight's verdict, let's get right over to Dana Griffin, who joins us outside that courthouse in Santa Fe. Dana, walk us through this verdict and what was the key piece of evidence you think for jurors tonight?
Yeah, Tom, so count 1, involuntary manslaughter, guilty. Count 2, tampering with evidence, not guilty. I actually spoke with one of the jurors outside of court and asked him what sealed the deal. He says it was the fact that she did not do her job by shaking those rounds before loading it into that weapon. He said it was a no-brainer. He said some of the jurors, went back and forth, but at the end they ultimately decided that she needed to be guilty. But as far as the tampering with evidence charged, that was in relation to her allegedly handing a coworker a baggie of cocaine to toss because she didn't want that to be part of the investigation. They said that it just didn't seem like they proved their case and that it was just kind of unnecessary. So that's why they went with not guilty.
This has been such a high-profile case, and the judge alluded to that right before the verdict was read and even after when she was talking to jurors. What was the mood like in the courtroom?
I mean, it was very silent as we waited for that verdict to be read. On the front row, for the first time, Hannah's mom was in court. She gave out an audible, gasp. She was crying. She was sobbing. There were moments when they were telling Hannah that she would be remanded, that she told her. Hannah looked back at her mom. She said, bye, you guys, because she had other friends and family on that row. The woman says, love you, honey. Hannah blew a kiss to that woman. And obviously, when she left and the judge had left, that woman stood up and started, saying expletives. And she's obviously upset. And even the defense attorney says that he felt that the state did not prove their case, and they plan to appeal. Tom?
And then do we know how much prison time she possibly faces, if any?
She facing time.
She faced up to 3 years, but because they only convicted her on the involuntary manslaughter, that is 18 months in jail. Now, the judge is going to decide for sentencing So they're planning to come back sometime in April, possibly May. We don't know. We don't have a court date yet, so she could face up to 18 months in prison. Tom?
Dana Griffin, leading us off tonight here on Top Story. Dana, we appreciate that. For more on this verdict, let's bring in NBC News analyst Angela Cittadella. Angela, was this a textbook involuntary sort of manslaughter verdict? This wasn't surprising?
I really think it was pretty textbook. So there were only two things they had to prove here. First, willful disregard for the safety of others, and that this was foreseeable. Now, if you follow the prosecution's case, they built a strong case that there was a pattern of almost total neglect. There's witnesses up there saying that she just was pulling ammo out of her fanny pack.
The words they used were sloppy.
Yes, and chaotic, and this is not what happened on the movie set. That's what manslaughter cases are based in. What is the standard? How far did they deviate? It sounds like she deviated very far.
Alec Baldwin's case is up next. We know he was not only an actor who held that weapon, he was also an executive producer on the film. How will this verdict, or at least this case, affect Alec Baldwin? Did we learn anything here?
So it could go either way, but my best guess is that it'll actually help Alec Baldwin. Just because at this point we have 2 out of the 3 people who handled the gun who've been proven guilty. Obviously here, Henny Gutierrez. She was the first person who was supposed to check the gun. She failed. The second person who she handed that gun to, Dave Holmes, has already pled guilty and also testified here that he didn't really check the gun when he was supposed to. So then if it's passed on after it's been called out as a cold gun to Alec Baldwin, I almost think 2 out of 3, that might be enough time.
The prosecutors still brought this case. What do you think they see that you don't tonight?
Why the prosecutors brought the case?
Alec Baldwin, yeah, against Alec Baldwin.
It could also go the other way. First of all, they brought this case before knowing what this verdict was going to be. Also, the prosecutors love having a first drive on. Henny Gutierrez going first. They know what ethics works, what doesn't, so there's still a great chance that he could be convicted.
Angela Cittadella, we always appreciate your legal analysis. Thank you. The other major headline tonight, of course, the rematch for the White House. Nikki Haley bowing out of the presidential race, clearing the way for a face-off between former President Trump and President Biden. The end of her campaign marking a new and unprecedented chapter of the 2024 election. It's the first time in more than a century that a former president will run against a current president. Trump steamrolling all of the early races, getting close to the number of delegates needed to win the nomination. Haley's season just one of the 15 Republican contests on Super Tuesday. The major loss prompting the decision to suspend her campaign, but stopping short of endorsing Trump. Biden and Trump now battling it out to pick up Haley's supporters. But when asked how former President Trump would bring her voters over to his tent during the New Hampshire primary, he said this.
They're going to all vote for me again. They're going to all vote for me again, everybody. And I'm not sure we need too many. I'm not sure. I think that Biden is the worst president in the history of this country. But when they're all back, they're all coming back.
Both candidates facing serious roadblocks, persuading voters.
You the fucking worst person ever to be president in any country. The fuck?
Trump, like Biden, 91 felony counts, setting up for a grueling few months balancing the courtroom and the campaign trail. NBC's Darren Hayes has the latest on this.
Tonight, the
Let this nigga beat you, bro.
Don't want. After their massive wins in nearly every Super Tuesday contest, President Biden and former President Trump appear set for another face-off, with Nikki Haley now dropping out of the Republican race.
In all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate and wish him well.
Haley then challenging her former boss, whom she pointedly did not endorse.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that.
The battle now on for her backers. President Biden urging Haley's supporters to join him in opposing Mr. Trump, writing, "I know there's a lot we won't agree on. I hope and believe we can find common ground." Trump inviting Haley's supporters to join the greatest movement in the history of our nation, while boasting Haley got trounced last night.
They call it Super Tuesday for a reason.
The former president carrying 14 of 15 states in play overnight, NBC News projects, securing landslide victories from Maine to Minnesota to California, with Haley winning only Vermont, allowing the president to focus fully on President Biden.
He's the worst president in the history of our country. There's never been anything like what's happening to our country?
Mr. Trump also securing the endorsement of Mitch McConnell, who had sharply criticized the former president's conduct around January 6th, and was the last remaining member of Republican congressional leadership not to support his return to the White House. But today, McConnell praising Trump, writing, "During his presidency, we worked together to accomplish great things for the American people." Despite her big defeats, Haley did attract more than a quarter of the vote in many primaries. Trump's challenge, Haley voters unwilling to shift their support. There's no way I want Trump in office. Meanwhile, NBC News projecting President Biden won nearly every Democratic conference, except for a surprising loss in the American Samoa caucus. Recent polls show Mr. Trump leading Mr. Biden in a head-to-head matchup within the margin of error. Now the Trump campaign will look to scale up and shift focus towards November. Expect a big change in tone or strategy from the campaign or the candidate.
Why? It's working. What we're currently doing is working. Garrett joins us tonight from West Palm Beach, Florida. Garrett, I know you have some new reporting on an issue a lot of voters are concerned about. Will there be a debate in this general election? We know that the former president skipped out in the GOP primary debates, and the Biden White House signaled that the current president may not go to debates. What are we hearing tonight?
Yeah, Donald Trump has split the position he held in the primary and the position that the RNC held up until the moment he posted earlier today that he would like to debate Joe Biden anytime.
You don't want to debate him.
Believing that he would be stronger on stage against the incumbent president.
You don't want to debate him.
Incumbents do pretty poorly in the first debate, but they tend to recover. Donald Trump wants to get that started now. Now it is the Biden campaign saying they're not committed to any debates. Watch this to be a significant storyline going into the summer and fall time.
We laid out the fall back. I want you to talk to our viewers about the Trump campaign war chest.
Don't not debate that dude, bro.
2 years have gone to fund his lawyers and various court cases. Where does that money stand tonight?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that Donald Trump's campaign is glad this primary is over early is that they can focus on finance now and trying to refill that war chest. Traditionally, this period between the end of the primary and the convention is a period focused on fundraising. That need is particularly acute for Donald Trump, who's not only having to fund his campaign and rebuild an RNC that is effectively broke, but he's also using that same money to help pay his legal bills, which will only mount as more of his cases start to move forward per hour. Of course, that big Supreme Court hearing coming up next month on immunity, another major thing to watch here. It gets expensive to run for president and defend yourself on the legal front at the same time, Tom. These donors are going to have to reach deep into their pockets to get Donald Trump through to November.
All right, Garrett Hake from the campaign trail tonight. Like Garrett mentioned, Nikki Haley did manage to make way through the Republican primary. And one of the concerns for voters is that we're looking for an alternative candidate in this election. Now the big question is, where do those voters go? Ali Vitale is our NBC News correspondent who has been covering the Haley campaign. She's in South Carolina tonight. Ali, so talk to us about what have the Haley voters been telling you throughout this process and our team, and what's the feeling? Where do they end up going?
That bitch, oh, fuck.
Tom, that most Haley supporters I've been talking to over the last few months didn't want to end up in. They loathe the idea of having to choose between Trump and Biden, and many of them think that now that this is the circumstance, they might stay home come November. You think about states like Wisconsin or Michigan or Virginia or Georgia, states that really hinge on a very slim majority of voters. If people stay home or make these subtle shifts in the electorate, that could actually have big implications. It's probably why Nikki Haley, as she wasn't endorsing Donald Trump today when she left the race, urged him to had to reach out to those voters. It underscores what she's been saying the whole time, Tom, about the fact that she doesn't think he's electable in a general election, in large part because there are already voters who are saying they're never going to vote for Trump.
And then, Ali, I do want to ask you, what are the chances that we find Nikki Haley ultimately endorsing Donald Trump? I ask this because if she doesn't endorse, at least in the near future, she becomes sort of part of that group of Republicans that are almost on their own island. People like Chris Christie, Mitt Romney. You just wonder what their political futures hold, at least in the near term.
That's exactly right. I don't think that Nikki Haley models herself after Liz Cheney or Chris Christie or any of the folks that you just mentioned. But I was struck today when she said But usually, as a conservative Republican, she always backs the Republican nominee. That could mean that she comes back into the fold, but in my conversations with allies and people close to Haley, that is probably not going to happen, at least not right now. As one Haley backer said to me, they don't think that Donald Trump has the, in their words, humility, grace, or self-awareness to reach out to even Haley's supporters, let alone Haley herself, to bring them back into the fold.
Big picture now, Allie. You literally wrote the book on women in politics. It's called Electable. You can find it at your nearest bookstore on Amazon. I'm still waiting on my copy. No, just joking. Nikki Haley is the first woman to ever win a Republican primary. What do you think her campaign will mean now for the future of women in politics, if anything?
First of all, I can very easily get you a copy, Tom. But second of all, it means a lot. This is all about the bricklaying of a legacy for women vying for not just national office, but the highest office in the land in this country. We have still never had a female president, but what Nikki Haley was able to do is leave behind a legacy that at least a Republican woman has won, not just the first Republican primary contest ever, but two of those in notching wins in D.C. and Vermont last night. That is substantial, it's important, and it really does allow for the next Republican woman to have a little bit less of what experts call an imagination barrier in imagining a conservative woman in the Oval Office as the Republican Party nominee. Again, that's not history Haley was able to make, but it does potentially make the path a little bit easier for whatever woman comes behind her.
All right, Ali Vitale on the end of the Nikki Haley campaign tonight. Ali, we appreciate your reporting. Next to the ongoing effort to remove Fulton County DA Bonnie Willis from the Trump election interference case. A lawyer for one of Trump's co-defendants who first brought Willis's relationship with special prosecutor Nathan Wade to light testified before a state Senate committee today for several hours. NBC's Blaine Alexander was there and has more on what that lawyer revealed about the relationship and what this means for the DA's future.
Tonight in Georgia, the allegations against Fulton County District Attorney Bonnie Willis that have threatened to derail the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump are spilling over from the courthouse to the State House.
You will please raise your right hand.
Taking center stage, Ashley Merchant, the defense attorney leading the charge to have Willis removed from the case.
Everything to save that dude, bruh. What the fuck is wrong with these motherfuckers, man? I don't even want to hear that shit. I want to hear bad news for dude.
That's a lot of cereal.
Prices going up everywhere. It's goodbye steaks. I want a cereal. This is Grocery Outlet, and your family can still have steaks for dinner. Follow me. At Grocery Outlet, we have an amazing selection of meat, like beef, pork, chicken, all within your family's budget, even today. I love steak and chicken and pork chops. Grocery Outlet by the market. Sorry, got excited.
And can you tell me why so many people that support Donald Trump love conspiracy theories, including yourself? He seems to attract lots of conspiracy theorists.
Well, let me tell you, you're a conspiracy theorist, and the left and the media spreads more conspiracy theories. We like the truth. We like supporting our Constitution, our freedoms, and America first. So,
what about Jewish space lasers? Tell us about Jewish space lasers.
No, why don't you go talk about Jewish space lasers? And really, why don't you fuck off? How about that?
Thanks. Thank you very much.
She seems nice. Why don't you go talk about it? I am. I just asked you a question, but actually, I'm the one who brought up that topic, so I've just done what you've asked. Did you answer the question? No, of course that she cannot. And so she ran away, smiling. She was very proud of her response. It wasn't embarrassing at all. And threw in a little F off to her, which is classy. Now look, in defense of the Congresswoman, that was, I think, a fair question. Not just the Jewish space lasers thing, but the conspiracy theory thing. Because, of course, a lot of conspiracy theorists do like Donald Trump. That said, it was aggressive. I'm not doubting that it was aggressive. If you're at the victory party and you're Marjorie Greene, you don't want to be asked questions like that. I would say, on her behalf, you could avoid getting questions like that by not so enthusiastically and endlessly supporting every conspiracy theory you read about on the internet. That would be one way to avoid that. And if, for some reason, you're not familiar with the Jewish space lasers conspiracy theory, I'm going to flash you back to November 2018 when she posted this on Facebook. And my response to that wall of text is, I'm not going to read that, but congratulations or sorry, whatever that meme is. But he talks about how wildfires in California are perhaps being set by space lasers that maybe the Rothschilds funded or something like that. And so this is how she became notable on the right, is spreading boneheaded conspiracy theories. Before we continue with the story, we depend on members to keep on going. Don't wait. Click join now on YouTube. And now she's not just, the Facebook mom or whatever. Now she's a congresswoman. But she hasn't learned anything more. When she faces a tough question about those conspiracy theories, or about the fact that the right generally attracts conspiracists, her only, retort is, you're a conspiracy theorist. But you don't even know that person. You don't know what, maybe she is. I don't know, and neither do you. And to then just turn to, we like supporting our Constitution, our freedoms, and America first. That's the best that you have, literally, as a full-grown woman, is to cling to those slogans like they're a defense. You just list the slogans that you've heard, and that is supposed to reassure us? There was no actual, argument as to why you think it is unfair to cast so many conservatives as conspiracy theories, or perhaps you could take one or two of them and present evidence as to why someone would believe that we have not yet seen. That's why they're considered to be wild conspiracy theories. But she doesn't have that. She just comes off as, like an unintelligent baby, and she's a full-grown congresswoman who's been in office for multiple years, who could well be our vice president, and that is the best that she has. Sharon, what do you think?
She wants to be.
Oh, Sharon, I don't want to hear you talk.
And one of the things that you said in your information here that you provided was that the danger is to include promoting gender transitions for children. And I want to know, do you really believe that garbage? It's not about if you believe it, it's not about. Because it feels like every single hearing that I am in, whether it is an oversight, or whether it's a budget, or whether it is a subcommittee, somehow the witnesses find a way to bring in trans children into whatever conversation we're trying to have.
You're here today because the President of the United States is failing to fulfill his duty to defend our country, to defend the borders of the United States, as required by the Constitution. Now, I've read and heard and I'm aware of the academic arguments about the definition of invasion, and I'm sure we'll cover that in the hearing today. But the reality of those of us living on the front lines, the reality of those of us who live in Texas, Arizona, states along the border, that notwithstanding any protestations to the contrary, we are experiencing invasion at the southern border.
Let's talk about invasion. Let's talk about the invasion of the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
Well,
when the heart of American democracy was attacked by a mob, many of them violent, of then President Trump's supporters who fought to keep him in power illegally. So you have to forgive me. You got to give me a little grace here for not being able to take this hearing seriously. This hearing, as we've said, is an absurd legal argument. The Constitution is clear. The federal government is supreme in matters of immigration and border policy. And with all due respect to Chairman Roy, I believe that his call for Texas to ignore the Supreme Court is an endorsement of lawlessness and chaos.
The fact is, socialism doesn't work any better here than everywhere else in the world it's been tried. As Margaret Thatcher famously warned, sooner or later you'll run out of other people's money. When we cut taxes under Trump, our revenues did not go down, they went up because of the economic expansion that they produced. The Democrats have never understood that. Truman did, Kennedy did. These guys don't. Until we control our spending, we are not going to solve this problem. That's going to require members of Congress to pronounce the most abhorrent word in all of Washington, the unspeakable word, the dreaded and forbidden N-word. No, we can't afford to support 5 million illegal aliens that the Democrats have allowed into our country.
Now, I talked to a lot of Vermonters like all Americans, and they love freedoms, and they want us to be fighting for fairness. I hear these two things probably more than you do. They want a fair shot. They want to know that they're not getting gouged while others continue to vote and break laws. They want tax fairness. They want us to ensure that the wealthy and corporations pay their fair share. This does not make them socialists. We know that increasing enforcement of tax collection raises revenue and benefits our economy. And Americans overwhelmingly support these measures. This, again, does not make them socialists. I mention this because my colleague earlier in this hearing brought up the hacking-hired inspector of socialism. I urge us to be more intellectually honest. Wanting freedom and fairness does not make one a socialist.
The American people have to know that the blunt truth is this. There will be pain. There will be hardship. So every time we walk alongside another program, another benefit in mandatory spending, shame on us. Shame on us. And so all of us need to be operating in truth. The American people have to have the truth. We have to make sure the American people know the facts, that the pain is coming. Medicare, Social Security, continuing insolvency, the pain is coming, and the midnight ride for us is to educate the American people so that we'll make the choice of sacrificing, not sacrificing enforcement on us. I think that ideal is
I disagree that everything needs to be on the table. There are some things that should absolutely not be on the table. And that's because the wealth gap in this country is obscene. I cannot and will not support cuts to Social Security, to Medicare, to nutrition programs for children and young families, for veterans benefits, and disability insurance. These programs provide vital supports to regular people and improve not just our nation's economy, but the well-being of the democracy. And they offer Americans a lifeline of crushing, grinding poverty. College campuses are supposed to be places where people can discuss, including foreign policy, with civility and with the goal of understanding different perspectives and learning from their peers. This sort of environment is only possible when harassment, discrimination, and behavior that seeks to silence, intimidate, and dehumanize is not allowed. I also had to take my jaw off before when one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle bemoaned the use of dehumanizing language on college campuses because I have not forgotten what was said in a fear-mongering hearing on the dangers of trans Americans. Right here in this country, it was a hearing full of dehumanizing. It made me sick, and as the only member of the LGBT community on this committee, I've not forgotten.
As American families continue to struggle under rampant inflation, increased energy costs, and an economy on the verge of recession, a subset of financial elites and their allegiance to environmental, social, and governance, or rather ESG investors, are making matters worse. Tax scandals force companies to engage in controversial political issues such as campaigns to defund the police or promoting gender transition in programs, cultivating division in the workplace and the marketplace. It makes the realization of the American dream contingent on acquiescing to the demands of the woke left.
So I just wanted to go through some of the language that was used by some of the witnesses earlier. We've got words like infiltrated, weaponized, collusion, cartel, conspiracy. What else is got here? Forced compliance, climate cartel, wrecking ball, worship. Yeah, these are really neutral terms. We even had anti-American, anti-capitalist, driving the woke capitalism. These are not neutral terms. These are not neutral terms. So, like my colleagues have said, this is a colossal waste of time. We've already been here. We've already established that if we in fact believe that we live in a free society and we have the opportunity to make investments, we should have all the information that we need to make those investments. We should not be fearing them. You believe that investment strategies are considered a secret weaponized to support and promote gender transition for children. I just want to, it is essentially that what you're saying, or do you just use it as
another opportunity to beat up on children. So do you believe this?
I'm not the one beating up on children. It's the people who are promoting gender transition children that are potentially harming them.
Well, so let me tell you, where I was, where I stepped out. And this is why I'm bringing it up. I stepped out to sit down with parents of trans kids from states that have come after me. And now their kids can't get the level of care that they deserve and need. And they literally said, when you leave this room, could you please, the next time you're in a room with someone bringing up, yet again, our children and our families have some kind of boogeyman, that you will actually stand up for us. And literally, I didn't think it would take less than a half hour. I left that hearing, here I am. I didn't know I would have such an opportunity. And all I will say, before I finish this, if you are a parent, or you know well, I want you to think really carefully about when you think those parents are making decisions for your children that are not in their hands. I don't think there's any place to live in on a desk. Once again, you do not see Americans and your children. I yield back.
The evidence is overwhelming. And yet many Republican members of the House not only continue to deny this, but still will not admit that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. This includes our current House Speaker, who even as recently as several weeks ago refused to affirm that Joe Biden won the 2020 election and is the legitimate president of our nation. The Speaker of the House. And it includes another member of GOP House leadership who has taken to calling those in prison for their illegal actions on January 6th hostages. Hostages.
Bigotry, Trailer Green, Trailer Green.
Local news, sports, and events from all over the country. Always local, always free.
They attacked our very democracy, and yet they are the victims? It's morally bankrupt. This is not only a sick, twisted perversion of the truth, it's also deeply offensive to Americans across this country. What my extreme MAGA Republican colleagues and their apologists are doing is perpetrating a deeply cynical, psychological injury. They tell us we can't trust our own eyes, that the men and women in uniform here at the Capitol were not battered and bloodied by the mob. They tell us that it's not true that members and their staff were helpless in fear for their safety. That it's not true that Democrats and Republicans on that day knew that they were in danger, and that the president, who incited the riot and the invasion and the insurrection, they knew this truth. And they said on that day, we're done with this guy. We know the role that he played. We're done with this guy. They knew his role. They saw it up close, and then they backed up and apologized for Trump and spread misinformation. So I find this offensive as a public official who has sworn to uphold the Constitution, but it's also deeply concerning as an American who cares deeply about this country and the Constitution. I am a thoughtful and committed public servant. Yes, we need a secure border. Yes, we need humane border policy. We need immigration reform. We need more legal pathways for migrants to work. Yes, we are a deeply divided Congress, and we must work in a bipartisan manner to actually solve the immigration issues that have plagued us for decades. And yet, that's not what this hearing is about. And it's worse than a distraction. It's worse than a waste of time. It's actually an insult to Americans everywhere. Right now, senators, Republicans, and Democrats are working on a compromise immigration bill. Right now, the president has said that he is prepared to sign a bipartisan immigration bill. Right now, the president has said he will put an additional $14 billion into securing the border. What has been the response from my Republican colleagues in the House? No. The response is no. Trump doesn't want it, so we don't want it. We don't want a solution. We don't want to alleviate suffering. We don't want to actually secure the border. So you have to give me some grace. You got to forgive me for not believing the calls for this being such an emergency. A bipartisan group in the Senate saying, we have a solution. The MAGA response has been, let's keep the chaos, we're good. Let's keep the suffering, we're good. The supposed extreme danger doesn't seem so extreme as I sit in this hearing because it's not good for the ex-president. So again, forgive me for not taking this hearing seriously. Our Republican colleagues have made it clear repeatedly that they will not work in a bipartisan manner on actual immigration reform. I yield back.
It's not just the public debt, publicly held debt. It's the insolvency within Medicare and Social Security. And so if you take the 30+ trillion in publicly held debt, and you add the 75-year sustainability for Medicare and Social Security, even after the 1983 fix, we find ourselves, according to the Treasury report and the Biden administration, we're at $124 trillion. That's the real size of our indebtedness. We have an unsurmountable problem because of our selfishness. And because we pretend, we love to talk about the size of this problem. We love to cite the numbers, but line upon line, precept upon precept, $1 million here, $1 million there, authorized, not with a revenue stream to pay for it. The question I have to ask myself every day: am I operating hypocrisy? Am I voting on things that I know is adding to this problem, or am I being down and give 3 minutes to you?
The aim of the Fiscal Commission is, broadly speaking, I think, a noble effort, because we all understand that crushing debt and massive deficits aren't healthy for the U.S. economy or for the democracy as a whole. As a parent, I'm worried about what this will mean for my children, and as the former leader of the Vermont State Senate, I understand the importance of working with colleagues across the aisle to pass a balanced budget that funded our state government every year. We found ways to do that required compromise, hard work, late nights, and I still welcome the opportunities with my Republican colleagues to address our nation's real challenges. But we already have the tools that we need. There are already solutions that work. And the chair said that this proposed commission, that in this commission, everything's on the table. And therein, nearly 67 million Americans depend on Social Security for benefits. And it's frankly that right now, in homes across our nation, there are elders who are trying to make the decision between medication, food, housing. We should be talking about strengthening Social Security, and it should not be on the table. Now, I talked to a lot of Vermonters, like all Americans, and they love their freedoms. And they want us to be fighting for fairness. I hear these two things probably more than anything. They want a fair shot. They want to know that they're not getting gouged while others continue to grow their great wealth. They want tax fairness. They want us to ensure that the wealthy and corporations pay their fair share. This does not make them socialists. We know that increasing enforcement of tax collection raises revenue and benefits our economy. And Americans overwhelmingly support these measures. This, again, does not make them socialists. I mention this because my colleague earlier in this hearing brought up the hackneyed, tired specter of socialism. I urge us to be more intellectually honest here. Wanting freedom and fairness does not make one a socialist. Let's get serious about closing the wealth gap. I don't feel this commission will do that. Let's focus on what the majority of Americans want, which is freedom and tax fairness. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman from Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be honest, that many parts of this hearing have been extremely difficult. My grandfather, Leopold Ballant, was murdered in the Holocaust, and my family has warned me my entire adult life that anti-Semitism is always lurking just below the surface. And we are seeing that today in stark relief in this nation, but also around the world. And so it's been personally difficult for me to sit through this. Here we are again. Here we are again. Now, it's been a long hearing, so I'm going to just cut to the chase here. In these situations, it's best to just follow the money. Not the rhetoric, not the messaging, not the talking points, just follow the money. So, there is a clear policy solution to combating the rise of anti-Semitism and other abhorrent discrimination on college. And that is to free fund the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. In government, budgets are a statement of your values. How we spend money demonstrates what we really care about. And we should care about the rise in hateful speech and dehumanizing language in America generally, and specifically, as is the topic of this hearing, on college and university campuses. Fear-mongering and hateful speech isn't just destroying our communities, it's actually tearing the nation apart. Because we all have a part in that as well. So we can point fingers at campuses, we can point fingers at what's happening in our elementary schools, but I would also say we have a part in that, in putting an end to it. Now, it's my understanding that the Office of Civil Rights has already had a reported dramatic increase in Title VI discrimination claims in the wake of the terrorist attack on October 7th. Yet many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have proposed a significant funding cut to OCR. The Office the staff's not there to do the investigation, to do the follow-up. So I would ask us to put our money where we say our values are. Now, a cut that has been proposed to the tune of reducing from $170 million to $105 million, that is a significant cut. It will have a detrimental impact on the ability of OCR. It seems like we are in a lot of agreement here on the things that are making us very uncomfortable.
Could you have by chance dropped a pair of pajama pants in the road by your truck?
That shit came from the dope or something. Those been out there all day.
Okay. Well, now they're on the porch because I wasn't sure. So I picked them up.
It's just the trash truck went by them shit's been out there.
There's groceries in the truck.
Yeah.
If we were to
What are you doing? What do you smell? What do you smell?
And students like these have no place
what
to
you
call.
Smell?
Of course, that's a secondary victimization. It means the law enforcement can't respond to you.
You would be cuter if you were smaller.
Why would
Get down. Down. Quit biting me, I'll punch you. Tucker! No!
This is the House Judiciary Committee where I think we need to available. Where we have data about hate and the Civil Rights, Office of Civil Rights does data collection on what's happening in schools. Data, we're not even, government's not a university. We collect data because when we know what's happening, we can intervene. We can put resources there. And if we're not here to talk about how the federal government can make my boy safer, then we could be at a PTA meeting or at another kind of organization meeting. And so the budget is a moral document. And I'm even saying it's not enough to have investigators. Can we please invest in interrupting it before it happens? Not a single family of a victim of the Tree of Life shooting feels better that someone was punished. They'd rather have their brother back.
Thank you so much. I yield back.
Breaking news tonight, the verdict in the trial of the armorer who loaded Alec Baldwin's gun before that deadly shooting on the set of Rust. The jury taking just over 2 hours to deliver the verdict. Weapons handler Hannah Gutierrez-Reed guilty of involuntary manslaughter, but not guilty of tampering with evidence. Our report coming up. Also tonight, the Biden-Trump rematch now set after Nikki Haley announces she's suspending her campaign, declining to endorse the vice president. Now the battle is on for her support. The GOP uniting Trump. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, after saying Mr. Trump was responsible for the January 6th attack, today endorsing him. The crackdown in New York City, the governor deploying hundreds of National Guardsmen into the subways as transit crime surges. In Philadelphia, the mass shooting, there was transit crime, 18 shot. What we're learning. In the Middle East, the first deadly attack launched by the Iran-backed Houthis in response to the Israel-Hamas war. The massive cyber attack causing that pharmacies nationwide to block from getting their prescriptions. And is this the future of air travel? The TSA's new technology that lets you screen yourself. This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Good evening, everyone. Just breaking tonight in New Mexico, a verdict in the involuntary manslaughter trial of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, armorer who loaded Alec Baldwin's gun. Fatal shooting on the Rust movie set. Tonight, the jury delivering a split verdict just hours after getting the case, finding Gutierrez-Reed guilty of involuntary manslaughter, but not guilty of tampering with evidence. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins was killed at the incident, and actor and executive producer Alec Baldwin is set to go to trial next. Chloe Melas has the latest.
Defendant Hannah Gutierrez guilty.
Hannah Gutierrez-Reed stoic, her mom emotional, as the jury found her guilty of involuntary manslaughter and not guilty of tampering with evidence. The jury spent just over 2 hours deliberating. She now faces
Tucker, I'll beat you.
During the nearly
Yeah,
criminal trial,
I heard that.
described a reckless environment. Weapons and ammunition unattended.
This was a game of Russian roulette. Every time an actor had a gun with dummies.
And emotional testimony from Dave Halls, the film's assistant director, who handed the prop gun loaded with live ammunition to actor Alec Baldwin. Baldwin fired the gun, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
Did you speak to Ms. Hutchins when you approached her?
I did.
What did you say?
Are you all right?
Did she respond?
Yes. She said I can't feel my rights.
Halls took a plea deal for negligent use of a deadly weapon last year. But the defense arguing Gutierrez-Reed had 2 jobs in filming, as the armorer and the workplace safety investigator testifying that she was not given enough time to ensure safety protocols were met.
Adopted a firearm safety policies, but they totally failed to enforce them.
In closing arguments, defense attorney Jason Bowles doubling down on blaming Alec Baldwin, who has pleaded not guilty to involuntary manslaughter.
What caused her to pass was Mr. Baldwin going off script and pointing the weapon. Ms. Gutierrez wasn't in the church. She didn't point that weapon.
But prosecutor Harry T. Morrissey not buying the argument, delivering brutal and convincing final words to the jury.
She was negligent. She was careless. She was thoughtless.
Chloe Melas, NBC News, New York.
Let's turn out of the race for the White House. President Biden and former President Trump easily dominating Super Tuesday, unofficially setting up a November rematch. With Nikki Haley dropping out, there's a new battle for her supporters, all as Mr. Trump is calling on President Biden to debate. Garrett Haig now with the latest.
Tonight, the rematch, though polls show most Americans shut down after their massive wins in the independent Super Tuesday contest. President Biden and former President Trump appear set for another fight, with Nikki Haley now out of the Republican race.
In all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well.
Haley then challenging her former boss, whom she pointedly did not endorse.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that.
The battle now on for her backing. President Biden urging Haley's supporters to join him in opposing Mr. Trump, writing, I know there is a lot we won't agree on. I hope and believe we can find common ground. Mr. Trump inviting Haley's supporters to join, quote, the greatest movement in the history of our nation, while boasting Haley got trounced last night.
They call it Super Tuesday for a reason.
The former president carrying 14 of 15 states in play overnight, NBC News projects, securing landslide victories from Maine to Minnesota to California, with Haley winning only Vermont, allowing Mr. Trump to focus fully on President Biden.
He's the worst president in the history of our country. There's never been anything like what's happening to our country.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Endorsement of Mitch McConnell,
Piece
who
of
has
shit.
sharply criticized the former president's conduct around January 6th, and was the last remaining member of Republican congressional leadership not to support his return to the White House. But today, McConnell praising Trump, writing, during his presidency, we worked together to accomplish great things for the American people. Despite her big defeat, Haley did attract more than a quarter of the voters in his primary. Trump's challenge, Haley voters unwilling to shift their support.
There's no way I want to come to an office.
Meanwhile, NBC News projecting President Biden won nearly every Democratic contest, their surprising loss in the American Samoa caucus. Recent polls show Mr. Trump leading Mr. Biden in a head-to-head matchup within the margin of error. Now the Trump campaign will look to scale up and shift focus towards November.
People shouldn't expect a big change in tone or strategy from the campaign or the candidate.
Why? It's working. What we've currently done is working.
Garrett joining me now. Garrett, the former president, now challenging President Biden to debates.
That's right, Lester. After boycotting the Republican primary debate, the Trump state is now willing to debate President Biden, quote, anytime, anywhere, any place. The Biden campaign responding, not committing to debate yet, said they will consider it at the appropriate time.
Lester, Garrett Hayes tonight. Thank you. Breaking news in Alabama, where a final bill to protect in vitro fertilization has passed. This comes after the state Supreme Court ruled that frozen embryos are children. Laura Jarrett now with late details.
Tonight, fertility patients and doctors in Alabama anxious to get a new bill signed into law. It's meant to shield clinics from costly lawsuits. Under the new law, fertility clinics and companies would not be criminally responsible if an embryo is destroyed, and civil damages are now limited to the cost of one IVF cycle.
We have women who have been waiting for this bill to pass, and in fact anticipating embryo transfers as soon as tomorrow or Friday.
The bills were fast-tracked by state lawmakers under mounting pressure to push threat. After that Alabama Supreme Court decision allowing 3 couples to sue for wrongful death when their frozen embryos were dropped and destroyed at a fertility clinic. Multiple clinics fearing the court ruling would open the door to civil lawsuits abruptly halted all IVF procedures. Some embryo shipping companies also pausing all business in and out of Alabama, sending many patients in the middle of fertility treatments to call on lawmakers to do something. But the new bill does nothing to address the underlying reasoning in the court decision, equating frozen embryos to children.
Every day, by working towards your biggest goals, or helping others with the little ones. It's easy. For every stage of life, you see the growth and growth. Together, you do more. Get the most of your needs. Use what's
Making polls who served had an embryo transfer canceled last month, cautiously optimistic about this new law, even if only a temporary fix.
Has been probably the worst 2 weeks of our lives. We were devastated, and then heard about the legislation, and so then we became hopeful again. It's been an up and down roller coaster.
Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
Here in New York, a wave of violent crime in the subways prompting Governor Kathy Hochul to order the deployment of hundreds of National Guard members to protect passengers. With more on that, here's Stephanie Goss.
In New York City, subway riders are on edge. I don't feel safe. Crime is rising on the trains, according to NYPD data. In recent weeks, multiple violent assaults, including this terrifying moment, when a woman bashed cellist Ian Forrest in the head, performing on a subway platform. The second time he's been attacked.
They say lightning doesn't strike twice, but this was a terrible moment of deja vu.
Today, New York's Governor Kathy Hochul said she is assembling a team of 1,000, including the National Guard and state police, to help secure the massive transit system.
These brazen, heinous attacks on our subway system will not be tolerated.
Teams will be stationed at the busiest and most problematic stations, searching bags. Civil liberties activists calling it overreaction and overreach. Do you think you will have an impact on weapons getting on the subway with these bag searches?
Absolutely. First of all, it's a deterrent. And if anyone's something that's coming into the subway system with a weapon, there's probably a good chance they're going to get caught.
Mike Kemper is the NYPD transit chief. The big problem, he says, is repeat offenders.
We arrest people all the time that have 50-plus arrests, 100-plus arrests.
The dramatic moves in New York happening as 77% of Americans are concerned about a rise in crime, even though FBI data shows violent crime has been dropping nationwide since a spike in 2020. But multiple cities are taking steps to crack down. In Philadelphia, the chief of transit police vowing to aggressively combat crime after 3 deadly shootings in a week involving the city's buses. 8 teenagers shot today alone.
We're going to target every criminal code on the book.
In San Francisco, voters passed 2 measures on Tuesday aimed at law and order, including expanding police surveillance tools with more cameras and drones. In New York City, they will also be adding cameras. In this control center, they can see every station. Soon, they will have cameras on every subway car.
Stephanie, you know, millions of people take the subways here every day. They certainly can't check everyone's bag. How is this going to work?
Sylvester, the transit chief says they're going to focus on the busy stations and those places where they've had repeated security issues. These search teams will rotate around. They could pop up anywhere. Transit chief says that is part of the strategy, Lester.
Stephanie Goss in New York tonight. Thank you. In the Middle East, there has been a deadly attack on a commercial ship by an Iranian-backed militia. U.S. officials say a missile fired by Houthi militants struck a cargo ship in the Gulf of Aden, killing 3 crew members. They are the first deaths reported in a wave of Houthi attacks on ships that have continued despite retaliatory strikes by the U.S. military. And we'll turn now to the crisis in Haiti, the prime minister leaving the country, and now on U.S. soil as violent gangs overtake most of the capital. The question now, will the U.S. get involved? Let's get more from Gabe Gutierrez.
Tonight, Haiti is on the brink of civil war as it spirals into chaos. The U.S., along with a group of Caribbean nations, is pressing Haiti's prime minister to speed up a political transition. Aria Henry had been missing for days, but landed yesterday in Puerto Rico. Clashes between heavily armed gangs and Haitian police have escalated after a mass prison break over the weekend. The White House says it will not send in American troops.
We have underscored that now is the time to finalize a political accord to help set Haiti on a path to a better future.
Right now, the near future looks bleak. Henry took office following the 2021 assassination of Haiti's president. We were there as the violence ramped up. This has become daily life here in Haiti. Fire is burning on city streets, protesters furious. Now, gangs control about 80% of Port-au-Prince. The State Department is urging all Americans to leave immediately, but the main airport is shut down. In Miami, Haitian Americans are scrambling to evacuate loved ones.
Human beings should be to be lived in a peace, not in a crime like that.
Tony Jonquino says his uncle went to visit his mother in Haiti, but now gang members are holding him for ransom.
Your family is calling you, crying.
What about your feet?
This is crazy. This is terrible.
Right now, it is not clear whether Haiti's embattled prime minister plans to return to the country. The White House said today it is not helping in Puerto Rico.
That's Nikki Gutierrez at the White House. Thank you. We'll take a break. In 60 seconds, the massive cyber attack affecting hospitals, doctors' offices, and pharmacies. The impact on patients and what you need to know right after this. We're back now with a massive cyber attack on a healthcare giant and the chaos it's causing for everyone from hospitals to doctors' offices to pharmacies and patients. Liz Kreutz with our report.
Thank you for calling Magnolia Pharmacy.
At Magnolia Pharmacy in Los Angeles, it's been 2 weeks of chaos.
It's impacting everybody, pharmacies, patients.
The pharmacy left in limbo from a cyber attack on Change Healthcare, the nation's largest medical claims processing company, that for days has prevented many providers from filling patients' prescriptions.
This pharmacy has moved to an entirely new server so they can now process their prescriptions. But it's not a perfect fix. They still can't look at patients' insurance information or take coupons for name brand drugs.
Sometimes it takes them 1 hour to 2 hours for one single patient to find their insurance.
Change, which is owned by United Health Group, says it processes 15 billion transactions a year and works across more than 67,000 pharmacies.
The $590 we paid out of pocket yesterday.
Sienna Keller says she had no choice but to pay out of pocket for what her stepdaughter needs to treat her diabetes.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, then I don't know how much longer we can really afford to go through it.
Tonight, Change Healthcare not responding to reports it's believed to have paid a $22 million ransom to the hackers. In a statement, the company is saying it is working closely with law enforcement and that it's implemented workarounds to help bring some systems back online. In the meantime, experts say patients should ask their doctors about obtaining drug samples or lower-cost alternatives.
This system needs to get fixed.
A massive disruption showing how vulnerable and interconnected our healthcare system is. Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Coming up, a look at your money in the 2024 election, while one bellwether district is ground zero for the strange reality of the U.S. economy. When President Biden delivers his State of the Union address tomorrow, it will be his biggest chance yet to tout his handling of the economy. But in at least one key battleground, many voters say his message is not connected. Here's Dr. Burns.
Daryl Drake has lived in Erie County, Pennsylvania all his life. The former maintenance worker is an avowed Steelers fan and muscle car aficionado. In 2020, he voted for Biden. But 3 years later, he says the economic growth the president talks about isn't helping him. How does the economy feel to you?
It doesn't feel well. You know, it says everything's doing better, but it doesn't feel that way.
Daryl's kids, both in their mid-20s and employed, still live at home.
When I was retired, I made stuff for my kids to be here with me. And I was like, my goal here is me and the wife.
You thought you'd be empty nesters.
Yeah, you know, having fun, you know.
That's where we vote come November.
If it's Biden and Trump, it's bad.
Are you considering going third party?
Yeah.
President Biden narrowly flipped Miss Bellwether County in 2020 thanks to strong Democratic turnout and won the state. But with his approval rating on the economy at just 36%, polls show swing state Pennsylvania is very much in play.
I think he's done a good job.
Republican turned independent Marianne Frontino is planning to support Biden.
We did not go into a recession. It's kind of surprising that people aren't more in support of him. He has a real PR problem, a big PR problem.
That problem for the president is playing out at Eduardo's Tavern, where we met a group of conservative customers. You've got low unemployment rates, wages are up, inflation is easing, stock market's doing well. But are you feeling any of that? How do you feel about the economy day to day?
I'm not sure I agree with what you just said.
I never planned on using some of the money that I saved to retire that I had to use because of the economy.
Groceries, gas, everything you have to buy every day is way more expensive than previous years.
Do you feel like there's a disconnect between what the Biden administration is saying about how good the economy is versus what you feel? A disconnect that Democrats will have to address this election year. Dr. Burns, NBC News, Erie, Pennsylvania.
And up next for us, the future of airport security. Is self-service coming to an airport near you?
Get ready to shine brighter than ever with the Desert Sunscreen Sales Event happening March 1st to March 11th. Start your spring with a splash of color. Their Sunscreen is 40% off. 3 different sun-bed levels, spray bands, red light therapy, the infrared sauna in all skincare products. Whether you're getting off for a sun-seeking getaway or simply seeking a radiant glow, Desert Sun has you covered. Visit one of our 47 neighborhood locations or head to desertsuntanning.com to find a salon nearest you.
Finally, with the TSA predicting a record spring break getaway, it's testing what could be the security checkpoint of the future. Here's Tom Costello. If you've learned to quickly check yourself out at the grocery store, the TSA's checkpoint of the future may be for you. In Las Vegas, the TSA is now testing a self-checkpoint only for pre-check flyers who know the routine by heart.
So that's not
Is this the future? Rather than moving travel trays, TSA officers instead can focus on security.
How may I help you today?
With officers on demand to answer travelers' questions.
When you're all done, go ahead and plug your items forward.
Carry-ons that require rescreening cycle back automatically to save time. And this is what's new. The arm down to the side, and it's going to look for anything that shouldn't be there. And it's telling me I got to come back out. I have a microphone, of course, that it's detected. I've got the transmitter on my belt. Something a lot of people forget: my cell phone. The Las Vegas test comes as the TSA forecasts another record-breaking spring break season. Already, passenger volume is up 6% over last year. TSA Chief David
The challenge is to be able to provide the level of security you need to provide with the changing threat environment that we face, and to be as efficient as we possibly can.
After a 6-month trial run in Vegas,
no halfway.
the TSA will decide whether any of this technology might come to an airport near you. Tom Costello, NBC News, Las Vegas. And that is Nightly News for this Wednesday. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
We are coming on the air buckled in and screaming toward the general election in November. Now that it is unofficially official that President Biden and former President Trump will go head-to-head again. Nikki Haley today bowing out. So what happens next in this new phase of the campaign? And we'll talk about why the prospect of a debate matchup is suddenly on the table. Also new tonight, some breaking news out of the Middle East. 2 sailors killed by Houthi rebels. The first deaths near the Red Sea since the Israel-Hamas war started. But the Pentagon's saying when we take their life. Then new concerns about a potential civil war in Haiti. Why the State Department wants the country's prime minister to hurry up and step down ASAP. Plus a new plan by the TSA to get you through the airport faster with security that's kind of like self-checkout. But the question of speed versus security.
These are fucking Haiti. Same news.
Well, folks, I got a clip here that you need to see. And I really hate to be the guy to show it to you. But trust me, as we move in to November, you really need to see this clip. Especially you ladies. Take a look.
What do you think of Nikki Haley? Did you ever consider her?
You know, what I got to say, you don't really want to put it on.
Let me hear it.
Well, the woman's not going to be a good president. She has no balls to scratch. She's just going to scratch her head. The old woman's good for her. My brother's having babies and taking care of the house. And that's the old thing, you know. But I'm old school.
So you never even considered her?
No.
Mainly because she's a woman.
Because she's female. I mean, females, don't take me wrong, females know what they're doing, but they still got to have a little bit of guidance. Trump would be the one that got.
Dude said, "You stupid bitch."
Thanks for tuning back in. I'm Tommy Campbell, still bald, still in my basement, and just wanted to say, congratulations, world. Instagram was down for 2 hours yesterday, and you did it. You survived! Because Donald Trump did such a spectacularly terrible job with his first go in office that ended with his clown car doing diaper donuts on democracy, voters were happy to give King Dum Dum another shot at losing. Trump's rambling victory speech was a string of falsehoods for a base totally uninterested in facts. And this week, the Trump-endorsed Ohio congressional candidate, J.R. Majewski, who exaggerated his military service and resume, dealt himself a final blow by joking about Special Olympics athletes on a podcast, and he's now dropped out and posted a video that is just dripping with MAGA tears. I'll be getting into some of Trump's increasingly frequent teleprompter fails, his bizarre Super Tuesday victory speech, R.J. Majewski's embarrassing exit, and more, but first, this.
Tommy, 3 things you love about him.
Yeah.
Get that microphone.
I don't like the microphone.
Oh, good. Hey, we're glad you're here. We're glad.
Get that microphone out of my face, buddy. Yeah, he don't like things shoved in his face. I guess someone has PTSD after a trip to Jason Bobert's No Questions Wood Shack off the 36. I love that his day release handler is like, yeah, he don't like microphones. This is like when I'm walking my puppy and he's excited to meet the schnauzer steps away and the owner is recoiling with the leash. Oh, he's not good with other dogs. He's not good with other dogs. Yeah, and you're not good with yours. But the look on this reporter's face is him acknowledging that they are constantly talking to absolute morons. And MTG's Oompa Loompa-headed boyfriend, in case you didn't know that's her main man, he has to step in with his RSPN mic to say, we're glad you're here. But are you? Wouldn't it be nice to have some sane people on your side now and then? But this is where you're at, throwing complex pop quizzes at a guy who can't count to 3, let alone come up with a few reasons he supports the diaper-defeated president. So there's going to be some pushback. It is pouring MAGA tears. I played in 35 countries for over 2 decades, but most days you'll find me here. Thanks for taking in this bald comedian take on things. Please join the best subscribers on YouTube while I blast the latest and stupid and more. Donald Trump served up the classics for his vertical family tree base. He called Biden the worst president in history, suggested he weaponized the DOJ against him, complained about the press being unfair, was sure to say China virus, talked an immigrant invasion by air, even though he's married too, said the country is a joke around the world, but I don't see unflattering baby Biden balloons floating in foreign countries, and he said that elections aren't fair, even though he largely defeated Nikki Haley. As usual, a lot of whining, plenty of lies, and zero talk of plans or action, just promising to make it greater than ever, greater than great, greater than before.
Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela? It's unbelievable. Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela? Unbelievable.
That's fucking weird.
3 letters in and gives up. Creates a new word. I don't know if Trump's trying to be more like Mike Lindell or Mike Lindell trying to be more like Trump.
Enrollment crime in federal crime, that's a federal law. And then you have a state crime. Let's just use Colorado for example. Colorado for example.
Example. For an example. Finish.
Post about not drinking sounds like a drug. I mean, is he talking to Lavonda? Was that one of the standard languages he's fluent in? Republican congressional candidate J.R. Majewski has dropped out of the Ohio race. So much better. After saying that Democrats are FAR, and then vows to stay in the race. Blah, blah, blah. I will never be threatened, and I will never stop fighting for this country and the amazing people of Northwest Ohio. Only to use this campaign suspension statement days later with typos and profanity because it's the party of family values, and that's why I'm talking about this guy. Majewski gave up and released this video about not giving up, which is like the Trump never surrender merchandise, which is just him surrender.
Spends
a lot of time supporting veterans. Today's America, it's a crime to love your country. It's a crime. It's a crime to support President Trump.
Should be.
I'm not going to sit on my hands anymore. I'm not going to be quiet about this. It's shame. Marcy Caffrey should be ashamed of yourself. That's all I have to say. I'm going to continue to fight. This country needs fighters.
And JR joins Kyle Rittenhouse as another esteemed graduate from the Kevin Sorbo School of Acting. JR had the backing of the entire Republican Party, and for a party guy with such an awful track record, he shouldn't be joking about winning the Olympics. As for the biggest Trump supporter in Ohio, JR used 120 gallons of paint to create a 19,000 square foot banner in support of Trump, and eventually gained his endorsement, but still lost the election in 2022. And now he won't have a chance to lose in 2024. But his first failed go was marred by being found out for fabricating his resume in military service enough to one-up George Santos.
Speaking at a rally for a guy like me that grew up in Toledo, Ohio, I got eagle bumps. We don't get goosebumps here. You're at a Trump rally, you get eagle bumps, am I right?
The fuck
Eagle bumps sounds like some weird patriotic teabagging you do with your friends, JR. Majewski repeatedly claimed he served in Afghanistan. The evidence shows he was far from Afghan and probably only served airplane food. Majewski was stationed at Havana Air Base in Japan for much of his active duty service. The closest he came to Afghanistan was a 6-month deployment to Nepal in May 2002, loading and unloading planes as a passenger operations specialist. Honestly, I probably worked more. More in Qatar than he has. In fact, the first time I landed in Doha, I was traveling with Jack Whitehall, who's now a very well-known comedian, actor, and all-around great guy. We were waiting for our bags when I was tapped on the shoulder and escorted to the room. Now, when you don't speak the language and everything's written in squiggles and you're part Jewish, it can be a bit freaky. They then opened my bag, like all excited. We have evidence, we got him, and I'm speaking in their language, you know. Deep in my case, they whipped out a bottle of tequila. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got that at duty-free at Heathrow. And then they had this heated discussion with each other, and they're pointing at me. I couldn't understand anything, and they handed me this big, bright violation. Now, in their mind, they got a terrorist, and they'd won. This was a big win for them. And I'm just holding this large yellow page, looking for the English on it, and it's explaining that I contraband seafood. I didn't know if I was going to be locked up. Like, it was pretty freaky, but they were really happy they caught me, and I thought I was done for. But eventually, they got up, they opened the door, and they sent me on the way with the yellow slip and no tequila. As soon as I stepped out, I saw Jack nervously waving. So I started to limp as if I just got some good gloving, and when I got close to Jack, I said, I see you now. God make the best of a bad situation. These people love to say the Dems scared them, but Majewski's own campaign website stated that he earned a bachelor's degree in business, summa cum laude, and a master's degree in project management, magna cum laude. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'm saying it fine, from Colorado Tech. But the reference to the honors that Majewski had once claimed and once were there are long gone. If you would not have that achievement deleted, you could actually have it. In December, JDay72 came out in defense of JR, I guess there's a weird MAGA initial name brotherhood, and he claimed that Democrats had lied about his record. Nobody hated his time in Qatar, a very safe area. I mean, him trying to pull the super soldier narrative, running a veteran campaign, just like urine collector Ron DeSantis.
Because everybody I speak to says how horrible it is. Nobody can explain to me how allowing millions of people from places unknown, from countries unknown, who don't speak languages. We have languages coming into our country. We have nobody that even speaks those languages. They're truly foreign languages. Nobody speaks them.
Yeah, that
If you love
language.
what I do here and you can afford to help out, throw me a buck with the PayPal link in the pinned comment or drop me a super thanks with this button. And please, take 2 seconds after this video to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. These things are free and help the show grow. Thank you.
I said, Abdullah, he's still there. He's the head of the Taliban. Should be killing our soldiers. Don't do it anymore, please. Terrible rain down on you. He told me, yes, Your Highness, probably Your Highness, which is interesting. But he said, yes, I understood.
If this Your Highness thing actually happened, he was probably talking about you being out of your tree on Halloween. In February of 2020, Trump signed a deal with the Taliban to pull all American troops out of Afghanistan by May 2021. Trump's deal also required the release of 5,000 new British Taliban fighters. Mission accomplished.
Thank you for coming out here. Thank you for watching Trump's we appreciate that. But, what is it about President Trump that in our society right now?
He's a man with morals. He stands before the meaning and he means what he says. And that's exactly what got America into the situation that we're in. People make promises and they don't keep them. That's very good for anybody.
Trump is morally bankrupt and is financially bankrupt. I think Eugene Carroll, the people that were huge rights, university, the unpaid contractors, the kids he separated from the parents, the wife he cheated on while disappointing a porn star, the country betrayed by not abiding by the results of a free and fair election. I mean, come on, people. How are you this painful? For those new to the show, I'm glad you found me. Thank you. For a year and a half, I've been reading genuine pages from my special copy of Laura Golden's book. This really is a ton of fun. I only do this once a week, and it's been pretty wild. Let's get back to it. I cheered him on as he slipped in. Get me that bit of meat. Now that he looked at me, clearly unimpressed, I held him close to my face, being careful not to slice him with my abnormally sharp chin. Get off that big meat. I left my chip press-on nail and dipped it in my pocket, getting it deep in the corner to get some old crumbs to share with Mountain Dew, while my husband, Jason with a guy, got us the main course. My finger was like a little ice cream cone, except the toppings were mint, old tobacco, and Dorito dust. The mama bear is strong with this one. It was such a relief to be out of the snow and inside Shooters, our gun-themed grill and bar. This establishment is just another success story in this no-nonsense, unapologetic American gal's star-spangled ammo belt. You know, we even have a cutout of Donald Trump in our lobby and sell a variety of clothes supporting our business. Our patriotic patrons would stop for a selfie next to the cardboard Great Real President and find themselves next to a rack of irresistible merch for the entire family. Oh, what's that? You want a glass for the man's coolers? No problem. A Protect the Second Amendment onesie for your teen mom's new baby? No problem. Or maybe the Shooter's Bar and Grill decorate your ankle monitor kit? Because why hide the shame when you can put a few gold revolvers and a jazzy diamond on it? Or maybe, just maybe, one of our tapes on portraits, such as Connect 2, or the one-color Magna Res Rubik's Cube. I haven't solved it yet. Now, our hoodies have always been a big seller. My boys even wear the gray ones to show off their Rover pride. They say quick glory on the front and Shooters Hill on the back. Can't miss them. Though one time, Jason snagged his on some barbed wire when he was getting the truck out of the impound. You know when you see a movie and the guard dogs get thrown some steaks? This doesn't work. Dear liberal Hollywood, stop making stuff up. Part of me wanted to sue both of the Warner Brothers for promoting such false narratives, or the impound Rottweiler for sinking his teeth into Jason's leg. But I searched the internet for how to sue a dog for millions when you're trespassing, and it ended just Jason had to get a series of rabies shots. Thankfully, his steroid years made him less scared of needles. It could have been a lot worse if he wasn't wearing protection. But the combination of his rattleskin cowboy boots and the government plastic of his ankle monitor had made the fight not nearly as bad as it could have been. So we didn't have to do that for the ankle monitor. Thankfully, we had access to the private partial figures, but the barbed wire we made a very good pull, and of all places, right next to glory. So that brought us a lot of joy. We never considered any under-the-table merch for Jason's No Questions Wish App on the 36th because it's a secret. Like most Johnson things, or my relationship at Jews, where we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory.
Definitely something more to go about these million things. It's not working. All right. That's 5
soon. Okay, you bunch of haters, I think you all need a couple of my pillows. You all a bunch of cranky, hate-filled people. Packeteers, typical liberals, cheaters, packeteers. Trump 2024, God, packeteers. Eco black. Sounds like for the weird thing like Mike Johnson's bank account or my relationship with Ted Cruz. But we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory, where it belongs. It was like a fairy. But we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory, where it belongs. But we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory, where it belongs. But we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory. But we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory, where it belongs. It was like a fairy tale. Johnson's bank account or my relationship with Ted Cruz. But we often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory, where it belongs.
What the fuck, dude?
We often felt that God sent that barbed wire to tear a hole next to glory, where it belongs. It was like a fairy tale. Thanks for watching. Please stick around and check out another one of my videos. Say hello in the comments, find my stand-up on Spotify, streamed by millions, and add me on Facebook and Instagram. It all helps. Be cool, be kind, take care.
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Ronnie Nobles in Washington, where it is the unofficial first day of the 2024 presidential election. Former President Donald Trump, now the presumptive Republican nominee, after former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley suspended her campaign this morning following Mr. Trump's dominant performance in last night's Super Tuesday primaries. The former president nearly swept the night, winning 14 of the 15 Republican contests, while racking up more than 90% of the night's available delegates. In announcing her exit from the race, Nikki Haley notably did not endorse the former president, instead saying it was up to him to win her voters back.
Likelihood Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well. It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing.
With those remarks, the battle for general election resources and voters and endorsements between President Biden and Donald Trump has begun. Despite previously warning Haley's supporters that they'd be, quote, permanently barred from the MAGA movement, today the former president extended an invite to Haley's backers to that end. President Biden also making his pitch, saying that, quote, Donald Trump made it clear he doesn't want Nikki Haley's supporters. I want to be clear, there is a place for them in his campaign. It comes as exit polling from a
So is there missions on this, or is this just building and you've got to...
No, it ain't no missions. It's just being creative.
That's what I thought.
They do have a Lego Fortnite mission thing, though.
You just don't play it.
It's called, something survival. It's new. It ain't, I don't know if it's actually, you gotta be on a raft or something. You gotta, it's like a pirate thing or some shit.
Oh, what the fuck was that?
Concerns from those voters about his age and his fitness for office. Not to mention a growing divide of his own inside the party on the Israel-Hamas war.
Meanwhile, the last remaining elected Republican holdup is coming back home to Trump after Haley's exit, including the Senate's top Republican, Mitch McConnell, spoke to us reporters this afternoon.
How do you reconcile your Trump endorsement with the fact that you called him practically and fully responsible for January 6th and effectively insulted you in your life repeatedly?
On February the 25th, 2021, shortly after the attack on the Capitol, I was at
What the fuck? Like SpongeBob SquarePants.
I would support the nominee for president, even if it were the former president.
What nourishes you more?
You just caught wood?
Yeah, you can catch supplies.
You share.
Oh.
It's stupid.
Beef is packed with
What's up?
protein, a key nutrient that helps build and repair muscle. So grab a bite and do some real bodybuilding. Together, we bring more. Strengthen your day at beefiswhat'sfordinner.com.
So, as we embark on what will go down as one of the longest general elections in modern political history, our own Chuck Todd points out the campaign's obligation ultimately isn't to other lawmakers or to donors, but instead to voters. The question is what these voters really want. What do voters want America to look like January 21st? And what does each once and future president plan to do to keep the country together if he actually wins? What does the day after tomorrow look like? It's now up to the campaigns to tell us. Our NBC News team has every angle of today's big political news covered. Ali Vitale spent the last few months covering the Haley campaign. She's on the ground in South Carolina. Garrett Hake is in Florida. He was at Trump's victory party last night. Kelly O'Donnell is at the White House and what all this means for President Biden ahead of his big State of the Union address. And in a moment, we'll check in with Steve Kornacki at the big board. But let's first start with Ali Vitale in South Carolina. So, Ali, I mean, you've spent day and night outside Haley's headquarters in South Carolina. What went into the decision to end her campaign today?
Yeah, they finally let me free of that building. At least we've got a change of scenery. But look, the news changed the same, and frankly, so is the political landscape here. For Nikki Haley, going into last night, it was always going to be a slog. Her campaign manager had sort of started using this frequent refrain of, we know the odds, but we know the stakes. Now, of course, we know their decision in terms of if they're going to continue forward, and the answer is no. Haley dropping out in a direct-to-camera speech today where she said she is a conservative Republican who always ends up going with the nominee, and then she proceeded to not endorse him. Not only is she not endorsing the nominee of her party, but it is a guy who is her former boss, someone who she took to task over his mental fitness, his moral fortitude on the world stage. That's not something that's going away, even if Haley's candidacy is. Of course, there is still the possibility that he does the outreach that Haley is urging him to do with her supporters. But in my conversations with Haley allies, I have to tell you, they look at the track record of the former president, and they don't think he has it in him to reach out, extend that olive branch, whether it's to Haley's supporters or to Haley herself.
Yeah, and I wonder about that, because she didn't wish Trump well, but she was very purposeful in not making that endorsement. That's what everybody was talking about today. And making that very specific point about earning the votes of those who didn't support him. You talk about maybe some sort of a meeting between the two of them, but what kind of outreach can he make to her voters? I mean, I was out in Virginia yesterday, talked to Nikki Haley supporters who aren't necessarily fans of Donald Trump. How does he win those voters over?
Yeah. I've talked to those same voters, Ryan, and I think that's where the struggle becomes. Trump would effectively have to change his entire personality and the way that he does political business. And I think that I've covered him long enough, along with you and Garrett and the rest of our panel, to know that that's probably not going to happen. All of these different fits and starts of the different iterations of, oh, it's the new presidential Trump candidate, like none of that is happening. I know Garrett and I talk about this a lot when we're away from the cameras too. This is not going to be a shift that we see. And in my conversations with voters, that's the shift that they would want if they were going to be able to entertain Trump in a general election. My view, Ryan, when I heard Haley today say that she wished him well, was that A, she knows about polling that says that voters want to see women exit a race gracefully, but I've also spent enough time in the South to know that sometimes when you say something that sounds nice, it isn't actually really nice, and I sort of wonder if that wasn't a bless your heart kind of moment with a former president.
Yeah, she just left that part out, but we can read between the lines. And while Donald Trump sent a taunting social media post towards Haley, very different point of view from President Biden. He offered her supporters an olive branch to come join his campaign. From those you talked to on the trail, do you think there's any opening that at least some of these Haley voters will actually choose Biden over Trump in November?
Absolutely, and that's why, although Garrett will tell you, and I will let him do so, that the Trump campaign is not overly worried about earning Haley voters to their cause, this is why they should be. The Biden campaign is more than happy to have them. They're like, come on in, the tent is big. That's the argument that Haley has made the entire time she's been a candidate. Her concern with Trump is his unelectability in a general, because he basically says, all right, if you're not with me now, then you're always against me. This idea that voters were barred permanently just because they backed Haley during the primary, when the whole point of a primary is to assess your options, Haley would say that's not how you build a general election big tent. And again, it's, I think, why she stopped short of actually endorsing him today, instead wishing him well, and again, urging him to get those voters back in the fold. Because in the same way you met them in Virginia, I have met them across the country. They say not only do they not want to vote for Trump, but they either are going to sit out or vote for Biden.
Out of Italian first report covering the campaign of Haley these past few months. We're anxiously waiting your return to Capitol Hill. So get back to quickly. Meanwhile, Garrett, it might be a while before you get back on Capitol Hill with us. So let's turn to you now following Donald Trump in Florida. And it is unofficially day one of the general election. Should we expect a general election Trump? I can't believe I'm asking you this. To be any different than primary Trump? I mean, rinse and repeat. How often have we seen this movie?
Yeah, look, Ellen Ty and I have sung this duet before, Ryan, and she set me up nicely to make this point that no, we do not expect a different Donald Trump. He has made that clear, and so have his advisors. They are very satisfied with the strategy that has brought them this far. We think the idea that Nikki Haley's voters that were somehow not come back into the fold is a fake problem, basically, bolstered by swing state polls that show them leading Joe Biden, albeit narrowly, in the states that are likely to decide this election. And they think that Joe Biden will ultimately be the force that pushes the folks that they will get back from Nikki Haley's camp into theirs more than anything he should do or say. Donald Trump is who he is, and these voters will be left with a choice between two candidates they perhaps don't love, and the Trump campaign believes they will end up back in his corner.
Now, he did make somewhat of an appeal today to Haley voters on his social media platform. He said previously, though, that these voters must be MAGA or bust. I mean, I can't imagine there's too many Haley voters that are checking his updates on Truth Social. I mean, is he going to be disciplined enough to actually make an outreach to them? Is he going to meet them where they are? Or is that just not his style?
No, I don't think that's what this is going to look like, Ryan. I mean, you mentioned that Truth Social was just sort of the barest invite for these supporters to come join him in the same post in which he mocks Nikki Haley for getting trounced the night before. This is not the traditional Big Ten politics that you would expect to see from a presidential nominee. I think what you're going to see here is Donald Trump continually trying to convince voters that it's January, March, February 2019 again, and that people should be thinking about that when they're thinking about who to support, not whether or not Donald Trump is nice to Nikki Haley or whether he follows up on any of the issues that were important to her, but purely whether the economy and the other issues that are important to them, wars and America's standing in the world, whatever your issue might be, if you liked it more in 2019 than you do now, you're going to be with Trump.
And of course, there is somewhat of a short-term challenge though for Donald Trump, and that could be his campaign checkbook. The Biden campaign raising money in a big way, not so much on the Republican side. How worried is the campaign right now about their fundraising?
Yeah, right. It's a real concern. They're getting outraised, and they also have to worry about spending on the legal front as well as the political. Now, I interviewed Trump senior advisor Chris LaCivita, functionally the campaign manager on a lot of these issues yesterday, and he made it pretty clear this is going to be a focus for them, although they don't think it will necessarily hobble them to be behind Joe Biden. Listen to what he told them.
The biggest challenge that we have probably is on the money side. I mean, we're very confident in our ability to put together the resources that we need to wage an effective, successful campaign. But, you know, there's a lot of big money from the left. The amount of money that Ron DeSantis spent, you know, was over $100 million. The amount of money that Nikki Haley spent just in Iowa alone was nearly $40 million. We spent so, you know, so money matters. It's not really a determining factor.
So you hear that, Ryan, some concern about the prospect of being outspent, although they have been there before. We will see, I suspect, in this time between now and the convention, a pretty heavy focus on finance by the Trump campaign to make sure those coffers are full come this fall.
All right, Garrett, thank you so much. And we're going to turn now to Steve Kornacki at the big board. Steve, what did we learn from last night's Republican primaries?
What did we learn from this Republican primary process? Well, I think one of the lessons is a bit counterintuitive, is actually about the role not that Republicans played, but that non-Republicans played, more specifically that Biden voters played. The rules in a lot of these states, we talked about this a lot, were open primaries. Democrats, Republicans could participate, or at least they were semi-open primaries where independents could take part. A state like Virginia last night, this is one of Haley's best states last night. She still lost it, but you do see she won, especially right outside Washington, D.C., in the suburbs there. And one of the things we found in the exit poll in Virginia, we asked Republican primary voters if they approve of how Joe Biden is doing the job of president, and about 1 in 5 gave him a positive job approval rating. Republican primary voters, if you just do a poll of Republican voters, our own poll, and we ask this question, it comes back like 3%. So when you hear 20%, like you are in Virginia, I think that tells you there's a lot of Biden supporters coming into this election because they could and because they're motivated by their opposition to Donald Trump and a desire to vote against him in this primary because they could, but also that they will do that again in November. And we've seen that really motivated Trump opposition tends to come in suburban places like Northern Virginia, suburban, college-educated, economically upscale voters. They've been turning out in droves in these special elections where Democrats have been overperforming. And I think there's a lot of suggestive evidence they turned out in a place like Virginia, earlier in South Carolina, in New Hampshire, other states to vote against Trump and to really pad that Nikki Haley vote total. So I think the lesson, and one of the most significant lessons from this primary potentially, is not about the Republican Party, it might be about the Democratic Party, about the Biden base, about the incredible level of activation among the suburban, college-educated core of the Democratic base. There's more to the Democratic base than that, but that segment of it, how extremely motivated it is to vote. It means for the Democrats and for Biden in the fall, they do not have to worry about energizing and motivating that group of voters. They've clearly demonstrated they are energized and they are mobilized. And for Democrats, the other significance is turnout was 160 million in 2020. There's a lot of people who think it's coming down this fall. If it goes down to a large enough level, I don't know what the number is, but at some point if it comes down, that could be a real turnout edge for Democrats with those suburbs just on fire with Trump opposition. And, Virginia, we don't think will be a swing state. But in other swing states, suburbs could be decisive. And if Biden has a turnout edge there, could end up making all the difference.
All right, Steve Kornacki, thank you so much for that. Joining me now, NBC senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. So, Kelly, the Biden campaign, they're reaching out to Haley voters today. Do they actually think they can keep some of them away from Trump? And can they make that outreach without alienating the Democratic base?
Well, there are complicated
Congrats, Carol. Now you're really going to have to get those new dentures. Good thing Aspen Dental is offering $500 off premium dentures, helping mothers of twins look their best.
Growing up, going to food banks and standing in line waiting for government fees, and then seeing that there was a better way out. I started working at a local McDonald's at 15 years old, and that first paycheck showed me that I could do a better job taking care of myself than the government ever had.
That's the Colorado Congresswoman and MAGA Media Girl discussing her new book, My American Life, and part of her story that many of us might not know about.
Sure, we're familiar with her QAnon dabbling, her open-carry restaurant Shooter's Grill that's now a Mexican restaurant, which is just delicioso. You might also know that she was once booked for disorderly conduct at a music festival and other classic white girl shit. But it turns out that Lauren Boebert was at one point on food stamps and received government assistance. And to be clear, there's no shame in any of that. That is, unless you belong to a political party hell-bent on taking that assistance away from others. This is the classic climb the ladder and then kick it down behind you origin story of far too many people in power. Republicans are now aiming to cut SNAP benefits, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program that helps over 40 million Americans not go hungry. Why was the program good enough for you as a starving child, but not good enough for starving children today? What, back in the day, kids' stomachs weren't woke? Now, mind you, this month the SNAP benefits that increased because of the pandemic are already being cut, a move that could possibly throw 4.2 million Americans into poverty. So Biden's hands aren't clean here either. But since the president got the GOP to swear they wouldn't cut Medicare or Medicaid, Republicans gotta cut something. Their donors paid for that. And so, they're gunning for food aid to families. This is the party that wants to bring the Bible back into government. Yes, because we all remember the parable of Jesus taking food out of a hungry baby's mouth to teach us the value of an honest day's work. That was in Luke chapter... But what about that McDonald's paycheck at age 15 that Boebert is really proud about? Yeah, why not just rely on a job at a massive billion-dollar corporation? Well, it turns out that McDonald's is one of the top 5 employers in this country where employees are on federal benefits like food stamps and Medicaid. That's according to a 2020 study commissioned by Bernie Sanders. So if workers have jobs but still need to go on food stamps to eat, then who is actually relying on the government? It sounds like instead of paying a better wage with benefits, these corporations are the ones who are banking on handouts. But socialism for the rich and incorporated, right? So if you can't rely on the government or a corporate job, what can you rely on? A man. Republicans at the end of the day want women in particular to rely on men and to have their unpaid overworked job be raising kids, wanted or unwanted, as if that weren't an incredibly dangerous prison of its own. For example, Lauren Boebert. She's a mom of 4 who dropped out of high school, and her husband not only exposed himself to 2 women in a bowling alley, which, like, strange choice, bro, but he's also been arrested for domestic violence against her, Lauren Boebert. Now, look, I guess she's risen above that, and honestly, kudos to her for somehow wrangling herself into a position of power she's recklessly unqualified for. But what about others like her? How are they supposed to raise 4 kids with an abusive flasher of a spouse? Become a congressperson and get $170,000 a year to take benefits away from other people? I guess that's one way out. Lauren Boebert, like so many cruel conservatives, lives in a hotbox of her own hypocrisy, and has no problem that the rest of us are just struggling to breathe. Marjorie Taylor Greene proves Republicans love going to war. Watch that video from me next on Rebel HQ. And if you like me, follow me on all the things at Franny Gill and listen to my podcast, Habituation Room.
What does the Biden campaign have to do? Because many people, especially donors in the Nikki Haley world, will argue President Biden has become so progressive, or he might not be so progressive, but he's...
Shut the fuck up about this shit.
The man sneaks behind the counter.
Don't worry, I'll distract him with my hotness. Excuse me, where can I find wart medicine?
Yeah, really? Can I get your number? This is a sexy conversation we're having.
Okay, so, all right, I'm sorry, so, big wart,
He has got a lot of energy for a smoker.
okay, so, I'm sorry, guys, cigarettes. So, how big is it? Maybe cigarettes.
That guy has one of every brand. Where's the loyalty?
And I try to do all sorts of stuff myself. So, like I try to burn it off with a match, and cut it off with a knife. No, that wasn't no good.
No.
Quick, go steal bigger trash bags.
And now it's like tangible. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it knows I was messing with it, so it's like,
Chips off the bed, chips off the Are you just gonna kick 2 dozen cartons all the way home?
I haven't watched it yet. And the way you're describing it, it's like you went up to it, it's angry at
Chips off the bed, chips off.
right? I don't think that happens again. Pretty healthy.
Police put out an APB for a chain-smoking man and a woman with bumpy skin.
You should ask about them hemorrhoids too.
Maybe next time you buy the cigarettes and steal the port medicine. See how that goes. Trial and error. Same way Edison made the light bulb.
you want to take a look just to make sure?
Oh, no.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
You want an emergency? I'm in Taco Bell, and I walked down there, and I left my car on the purpose. I walked a quarter mile from here, they wanted to serve me. You called 911 because you want tacos? Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you if you're busy. Tacos at Taco Bell. Because I'm not driving, and I refuse to drive because I refuse to get DUI. I mean, it's Taco Bell.
Yeah, what an employee thing.
DUI is taco, which is basically what they're saying. Money's not an issue. However, the issue is I hit the money. Are you gonna help me out, or are you gonna arrest me to get home?
Well, we're not going to take you home.
I know, I'm calling you.
You want me out there?
I'm a retired Marine. I feel like Rambo. You ever heard of Rambo?
I feel like Rambo now.
Yeah, anyway, I don't hurt people. I can. I don't.
No, I'm coming down there and see what we can do for you.
On my humor thing,
I'm sure he's not going to mind down that.
When police arrive, they arrest Terry Kimball for misuse of the 911 system. He's fined $450.
I mean, they talk about.
They are the people of the earth, but they are pain in the ass, those buggies.
It's clear that this cop has a very professional tone.
Yeah, pay no attention to the modern devil woman. You're doing just fine. You'll have your buggy license in no time.
You shouldn't be trying to outrun the cops. You know, at some point, your vehicle will have to take you.
Oh, now they're pulling over.
What they have to say here?
Why are you not listening to me?
I can't take a Wisconsin accent seriously either.
It's never occurred to me to give a cop a silent treatment, but it kind of works.
The police are after you.
What legal would you have to
You know the straw hat law? It's the straw hat. I tried to look up the straw hat law, but apparently the Amish have not put it on the internet. I want to more important than your straw hat law.
I can get straw right your ass.
How do you think next time I can pull it over?
There is no straw hat law, and the driver is cited for obstructing an officer.
There's no obstructing an officer. They just want you to take orders from no one wearing pants. Take the answer.
And remember, the key to getting your jet ski license is to be able to pretend this is about twice as fun as National Games.
Can't wait to make my friends watch this video. Those things look like they're as good as mine. used incorrectly.
Kids from under the biggest waves away from the dumbest jet skiers.
Maybe he'll fall off, I'll kiss him, and I'll get my legs finally.
I'm testing you for your jet ski license, not your pilot license. Woo-hoo! Who's? What are you doing? Thanks for dropping in. Do you want to go to the Fish concert with us?
Should bring a boat with you? Or do you lie with me?
Please be live so we can keep making fun of you.
This is exactly why I don't take advice from children. They don't know
Come on, let's go again.
It's a calm afternoon in a New York City subway station until police stop two fare jumpers. The young ladies refuse to go quietly.
Yo, crazy, man. Yo, they got bus here, too.
You people rob taxpayers and this and more. Here's the deal. Get off over the turnstile, you get caught. I'm really sorry, Eric, I want to
Yo, what's up, man?
Police brutality, man!
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not police brutality if resisting arrest comes first. Chicken today, I know.
Yo, you go crazy, man.
You see that?
Someone's grandma brought this car.
Why stop at a citation for jumping a turnstile when you can add resisting arrest and assault to the list?
Unable to manage the situation, police call for backup.
Yo, they got the whole damn police force out here now, man.
It's crazy.
Was there like a cop car that just pulled up?
Oh no, it's for the roof. Keep mad, man.
Well, maybe if you didn't buy such nice glitter tracks, you'd have enough money for the subway.
Damn. The girls are taken into custody and face charges of assault and resisting arrest.
Normally, I don't think of teenage girls as being loud or dramatic or prone to hysteria. But I'm going to have to rethink that after seeing this.
The morning after Jay's 30th birthday party, he decides to try something he's never done before.
I'm totally excited. A little bit.
Not doing any acrobatic stuff. You don't want to do it? Yeah, I want to, but
You know, I'm queasy and hungover. Can anyone think of anything we can do that could, like, make me more nauseous?
something out there on the horizon. And you pick a spot out there, and we just gonna fly towards it.
Plane riding is a lot of fun, provided your stomach isn't a pussy.
Today's going to be partly cloudy with a small chance of vomit.
Hey, look, it's my birthday cake. Again.
Oh, look, skywriting.
Tripping is awesome. Plus, I get to be on top of my chain.
The pilot doesn't seem to be too upset. He's like smiling. What the fuck's with these people?
Don't worry, this happens all the time. Just don't hit me.
get sick and then you're both glad when it's over. Yeah, I could be a really good hang glider.
The countdown resumes, and we're sticking around Jersey for a no-holds-barred oil wrestling tournament.
Oh, that doesn't look like fighting.
And now, the main event.
Oh, yeah, main event.
Wait, did part of the air mattress just come to life? Oh, yeah, that's a lady. Okay.
Alright, one of these girls clearly has an advantage in the fight, but the other one has an advantage in life, so it kind of evens out.
Pop it like you're fat. Pop it like you're fat. Is that okay to say?
This is a typical Friday night for me and John Enos. We done popped plenty of mattresses.
That had to have been a nightmare. She probably still hears it popping right now. Like in slow motion. Just... Oh, no.
The inflatable wrestling ring costs $5,000 to replace.
My Chris, that's hard. Go get yourself a pickup and fill it up with oil and padding. Backboards on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Prime Circus. Behold in the center ring.
Hey, look, it's a hamster wheel for people.
The deadly wheel of death was 40 feet up in the air. And takes at deadly speed while our defying daredevil will.
Oh, that is going to linger.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have an acrobat position available immediately. I can take it with you.
I love that he did that cartoonish walking in air. I've never seen that on a real person before.
I told you we should hang out the wheel of death. Bound to be good for business.
Well, I still think we should have hung out at the school playground.
Now you know the judge told you to stay away from there.
The acrobat is rushed to the hospital.
Doctor, would we ever ride the wheel of death again?
We'll see. I was just became here. Like, what do you want to say that?
Amazingly, the performer suffers only minor injuries and makes a quick recovery.
Come on, I want my money back. It clearly says wheel of death. Now keep doing it till he's dead. $5. The Bronx, come for the Yankees, stay for the impromptu car accident block parties. That car ain't going anywhere.
Back up? Have you seen your car?
I'm not a mechanic, but don't you need that on the inside?
Hey man, let me know if I'm gonna hit anything. I don't wanna mess my car up.
sure he's just trying to get out of the way. He doesn't seem like a flight risk.
Nice thing about Corvettes, you can attach them to a pole and they'll still exceed the speed limit.
You're listening to WGUS, home of the dumbest motorheads. And now a word from our proud sponsor, Carl's Auto Parts, who, believe it or not, is offering up a free battery replacement right now. But you gotta get down to the store within 5 minutes. Video too. We're gonna be there. Early 90s, late 80s Corvette.
Excuse me, officer? Officer Beaver? Question for you. Do you sing?
All Fortnite is gone in the car.
The battery was dangling and the hook was gone. I don't know. I'm over here to find this guy.
Another great comment on the NYPD, baby. It turns out the driver is one of New York's bravest. Ooh. He is a member of the fire department? Shame on you. He is charged with DWI and